What's up, tribe? How you guys doing? What's up, Star? Hey. Whew. Okay, we're gonna get into some things. I decided I would kill two birds with one stone because I know I was on the Ready to Love panel over on Sabrina's channel last night and it ran late. So I didn't have time to do my Secrets of Playboy review. So I figured I would come live so we could talk about some things because baby, last night's episode, it was a little interesting. Last night's episode was it's a little different. So let me say this. I don't know how many episodes this thing is going to run. But last night's episode, we still had some good information. But I feel like the information is starting to get a little redundant. Right? A lot of stuff there already. You got the notification, Ms. Bay thing? I'm so happy to hear that. A lot of this information we have already heard, right? And I feel like they're just regurgitating what we already know. And it's like we get it. So I feel like we get it. You know, there's such thing as overkill. I feel like we get it. You know, we get it. So, but we're going to get into it. It was a good episode and some good, something really interesting came up. Something really interesting came up last night, and we'll get to that if you watched it. A lot of people are telling me that, a lot of other YouTubers aren't really reviewing this. So, y'all let people know we over here. And I hope more people are finding us. Hold on, let me see here. We're going to share this video out, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. Because I don't think, I look, Ms. Bay thinks that she got the notification, but I don't think a lot of people got it. Y'all know how YouTube does, child. But it's okay. We're going to go ahead and get started. So, let me get to my notes. So, for those who do not know, if y'all are just stumbling in here, The Secrets of Playboy is a series that A&E is playing, which is going through basically just that, the secrets of Playboy. And it has been very eye-opening. I think for most of us who grew up, we knew about Playboy. Playboy always seemed like the respectable magazine out of that genre. We knew about the Girls Next Door, the reality show with HUgh Hefner, who seemed like this, basically just like a horny old guy that had like 3 young girlfriends, right? But I think we looked at it from a mindset of the times and didn't really take it that seriously. Like, oh, HUgh Hefner, oh, he's always been this playboy and he's got 3 girlfriends and, like they've got this reality show and, oh, they're so cute. But now you're starting to get like what was really going on behind the scenes. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not shocked. We know about the misogyny that existed, and it still exists a lot today, but it definitely was a lot more prevalent. We know about the misogyny of the time. Women were seen as things and objects, and pretty women were seen as things and objects and disposable. And, we're definitely getting glimpses. Like we always heard about the Playboy Mansion. Oh, and stay out of the grotto because it goes down in the grotto. You know what I mean? But it was always said with like a wink, wink, and a smile. Like it was just a big old orgy full of consenting adults, right? So if you've caught, now we on episode 8. Y'all gotta go back through episodes 1 through 7, honey, and get all the background. But we're going to pick up with, the thing I like about it is that each episode could stand alone. And I think maybe that's why maybe they repeat stuff, is because if you just happen to catch episode 8, you might not have all of the background. But since I've been watching all of the episodes last night, a lot of what they talked about, I was kind of like, okay, y'all said this already, right? But let's get into it. So last night's episode was called Predator's Ball. Predator's Ball. Did I? Hold on, y'all, before. I think I did, but let me make sure I did. I'm almost certain I did, but let me make sure I did, child. Yeah, I did. Okay. Okay, I did. All right. YouTube be playing games, y'all. Okay. In my mind, Playboy was just softcore P, but baby, it was not. No. Hey, Lady Libra, what's good? No, baby, it was. Ooh, it was deep. It was deep, deep, deep. So this episode, we start off with Madeline Myers. I think her name was Madeline. I wrote Melina. Sometimes I can't read my own handwriting because I be trying to write so fast. But I believe it's Madeline Myers. Now, Madeline Myers is telling a story. She said we're talking the main person we're talking about in this episode is a woman by the name of Paige Young. Now, Paige Young was a Playboy playmate who committed suicide in 1974. Madeline was her neighbor and friend. They actually went to the Playboy mansion together for the first time. They went up there together the first time they went. And she tells the story about how they got invited to the Playboy mansion. She was running late that night, so she told Paige to go ahead and go without her, and she'd meet her up there. And she said by the time she got to the mansion, Paige was already sitting next to HUgh, right? So we already know, if you've been watching the other episodes, we already know that was it. You wanted to get close to HUgh Heffner so you could get in Playboy or become Playmate of the Month, Playmate of the Year. Like, it was all a game. It was all a politicking type game. Now, she said that she actually was the one that found Paige's body. She said she went because they were neighbors, and she went into Paige's house, and she found her on the bed. She had done it with a gun. I'm trying to be very delicate with my words because I know YouTube will play around with certain stuff. She had done it with a gun to her head. And she said that there was a mural on her wall. And it was all of these pictures cut out. Most of the pictures, she said it was almost like a pyramid. And at the top of the pyramid were pictures of HUgh Heffner. And it was written in red on the wall, HUgh Heffner is the devil. Now, she said that within 3 days, Paige had been removed. The whole apartment had been cleaned up. All of that had been thrown away. And that was it. And she said that she felt like Paige went through a lot of trouble to warn people, to tell her story in a way, and that it was just pretty much pushed aside. She also left a note. And in her note, she mentioned two people's names. And one person's name was HUgh Heffner. And the other one was John Hughes. And John Hughes is a big director. And definitely in the 1970s. I'm sorry, I said John Hughes. That is wrong. Please, please, please. I did not mean John Hughes. I meant John Huston. Houston. John Hughes is the one that made the Home Alone movies. I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about John Huston. Angelica Houston's daddy. At the time that this happened, John Huston did frequent the Playboy Mansion. He was making the movie Chinatown, which went on to become a big hit. And this is what was happening at the time. What's up, Yana? Hey, boo. So let me go through my notes. And as I go through the notes, I'm going to remember. Okay. So we are reintroduced to Stefan Tannenbaum, who was HUgh Hefner's valet. He's the one, if y'all been watching this series, he's the one that was talking about how part of his job was to clean up the sex toys every morning after HUgh Hefner had his, night of passion. And him and his staff would have to put on their gloves and clean up, and they would have to sanitize the sex toys and put them back in behind the headboard where HUgh Hefner kept them. That's him. Well, his wife was also a hostess, and we get to hear she later on tells us a very, very horrible story about oh shoot. Now I can't think of his name. I can see his face. Hold on. Joe. Oh shoot. I know I wrote his name down. I had to write his name down. Jim Brown. Thank you. Oh, gosh, Lee. Jim Brown. But we'll get to that later. So they talked about how HUgh Hefner wanted nothing more but to basically be a respectable producer, director in Hollywood. Like, he wanted to make like real movies, respectable movies, not like not the soft porn stuff that he was doing through Playboy and all of that. And basically Hollywood laughed at him. Like, he would never be accepted as part of Hollywood's elite. They would use him because he gave them access to the prettiest women in, in LA. But he would never ever be accepted as a serious filmmaker. He did produce one movie, and they talked about basically it was a horrible movie, and he was a laughingstock. They like laughed at him. They took his money, and it was just a bad situation. So he was all, no matter how famous he got, no matter how much money he got, he was always chasing the next thing. And for him, the next thing was to be a part of respectable Hollywood. And they were like, that was never going to happen. But in his quest to become a part of respectable Hollywood, he opened up the mansion to Hollywood's elites, right? And so they talked about all of the actors and directors and producers who would come to the mansion. And again, he would give them all of the drugs, all of the women, access to whatever they wanted, again, in hopes of earning favor with them. John Huston was and that might be why him and John Huston became really good friends, because they were really good friends according to what they said, and that might be why. Roland Polanski again was another one who was really good friends with Hugh Hefner. Bill Cosby. We're gonna get to that. So they said that Mary O'Connor, who we mentioned we also mentioned her in another episode. She was basically Hugh Hefner's like pimp / her official title was one of his secretaries, but she was basically the pimp. She's the one that would make sure that the girls were in place. She was the one that would call whenever Hugh were having these parties or these different events. She would call all of the women and get them to come and basically, let them know, listen, you got to be nice to the VIPs. There are going to be these VIPs that are here tonight, and you're expected to be nice to them. They talked about movie night. Hugh Hefner would have these movie nights, and they talked about these again, some of this stuff they've talked about before. They talked about these movie nights before when Holly Madison did her episode. She was episode 2. When another one of his ex-girlfriends, Sandra, I believe it was, they both talked about these big movie nights where Hugh Hefner would show these movies, and again, he would invite all of these Hollywood elites, and he would invite the women to basically, play nice with the Hollywood elite while these movies were going on, right? And one of the women who looked old as hell, she did not age well at all. And I ain't saying that to be mean, but what I'm saying is like a lot of these women, you could tell they're like in their 60s. This woman looked like she in her 80s. I said, how old were you when you was at the Playboy Mansion? But anyway, she was one of the women, and one of the people she was assigned to was Bill Cosby. And she was like, she was English. She had an English accent. And she was like, I didn't even know who Bill Cosby was. But, I was told I had to be nice to him. He was a VIP. She said, and he seemed like a really nice guy until the lights went out and the movie started. She said, and then he promptly shoved his hands down her pants. There was another story about Tony Curtis. They said Tony Curtis was a known, alcoholic. That's Jamie Lee Curtis's father. He was a known alcoholic. And again, the women that were assigned to him, they were like, he was a really nice guy until he started drinking. But once he started drinking, not so nice, but we would assigned to, but we were still expected to be nice to him. And, he would get drunk and rude and belligerent and all kinds of stuff. Now, something else that they mentioned in one of the other episodes, they talked about how Hugh Hefner taped everything. And part of the reason why Hugh Hefner would invite the media, he was definitely, that's well documented that he was a horrible, really bad alcoholic. One of the things that he would, he taped everything. And he never had a problem inviting the media up. He welcomed the media to come up to the mansion because he would get them on tape, right? And then if they ever tried to come back later and complain about something, or if a story was to be written about them, he had them on tape. And it was kind of like, well, you may not want to release that story, or I might have to release this tape. And I feel like going back to how this episode started, where they talked about Paige Young and how the police came in, cleaned up her apartment. They never questioned HUgh Hefner. And anybody else, if something like that happened and there was a whole shrine to someone in that person's bedroom saying that they were the devil, even though it was a situation where she took her own life, they would have at least questioned HUgh Hefner, like, why she hates you so much? Like, she got a whole shrine in her house saying that you are the devil. Why she ain't like you, bruh? In her suicide note mentioned, it's something, I'm paraphrasing because I didn't write down the exact quote, but basically she said these two men were horrible human beings, and they shall get their, they'll shall get their, get what's coming to them. So at the very least, the police should have questioned them. But I feel like, just like they said that they had these tapes, I'm sorry. They had they had these tapes. That's a good question, Shirley. Hold on, I'm gonna come back to that. I don't have an answer to that, but I'm gonna come back to that in a second. That's a good question. And I'm thinking maybe he had tapes on different police officers or chief of police, or high ranking officials in the police department, and that's why they didn't press the issue, and that's why they didn't go knocking on his door. Because it seems to me, I get it was the 1970s and women were women and she was a playmate, and maybe they just didn't feel like it was, it was a non-starter. But the fact that, like I said, she had a whole shrine, you would think that there would at least be a question. Now ultimately there's no question about whether it was self-inflicted. Like, there's no question that this was a stage situation. No, nobody questions that. But it's just what happened. Oh, her name is Melanie Myers. Okay, Melanie Myers, not Madeline. But it's just a question of what happened that led her there. We're gonna get there. So, okay. I'm going through my notes. So y'all see I got a lot of notes from last night's episode. Money, access, and power. So before I forget your question, Shirley, let me answer that about the tapes. So the thing about the tapes is that there was a librarian. That was the person's title. They were the librarian. And only HUgh Hefner and the librarian had access to the room where those tapes were. Not even the staff, not even the cleaning staff could get in that room unless HUgh Hefner or the librarian let them in. And the valet said that if you got caught talking to the librarian, you could be fired. Because again, the question was, nobody was supposed to talk to this person in any way, shape, or form. Now, the question about where did the tapes end up after he died is a really good question that I don't know the answer to, and it wasn't addressed. I do know that the estate has been sold, and I feel like either he left instructions for certain things to happen upon his death, or the family destroyed them before they sold the Playboy. Because like the Playboy magazine and all that has been sold. But as far as his personal effects, the family either destroyed it or he left very strict instructions. Remember, HUgh Hefner was in his 90s. He had to know. You know what I'm saying? It's not like he died young and, he had to. So I feel like he put some things in place. It's kind of like when J. Edgar Hoover died, his secretary went into the office before anybody was able to get into that office and shut it down, and she destroyed a lot of records. His secretary of many, many years, the minute she got the call that he was deceased, she went in. She didn't have to be told, but she just knew what the plan was, because they said the records that J. Edgar Hoover had, he was the head of the FBI for many years, and she destroyed a lot of that. Mickey Garcia, who we remember that she was the head of of Playboy Promotions. We heard a lot about her in the last 2 episodes. She read a note from a meeting that she had with HUgh Hefner about the complaints about Tony Curtis. Again, she has a lot of her personal artifacts that still have, like her handwriting of different things. Now, Tony Curtis found out that he had been videotaped, and he actually got a lawyer involved, where the lawyer demanded the tapes from Hugh Hefner. Now they didn't give me what ended up happening. They didn't address that in there, that whether he was able to get the tape or not. But he did get a legal team involved. I feel like he probably got the tape. That don't mean it wasn't a copy, because his girlfriend, one of the girlfriends said that people would see themselves being taped and they would ask Hugh not to tape them, and he was like, "Oh, okay, no problem. I'm gonna turn the tape off." And of course, he never did, and he actually had the tapes. So he had. If you had sex at the Playboy Mansion, there was a tape. It may not exist today, but there was a tape. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Let's get to this Bill Cosby situation. Now, Bill Cosby comes up, and Bill Cosby has a whole 10-minute section of this episode. And once again, we're hearing the stories about how it was a well-known or a worst-kept secret on the Playboy property that Bill Cosby was a predator, that Bill Cosby was, this is coming from these people. I ain't saying it. The women are speaking on their experience with Bill Cosby. And he actually had an interaction with Paige. Paige is the woman that we started this episode. Hey, Joshua, the woman that we started the episode with that, was deceased. She accused Bill Cosby of assaulting her. Again, we know the story. He drugged her, assaulted her, and it happened at the Playboy Mansion. We also get a couple of other stories. There was a story, and this is all coming from the people who were there, y'all. So this is allegedly, I won't dare. A woman by the name of Julie Huff. She was 15 years old. Bill Cosby brought her to the Playboy Mansion, got her drugged up, and had sex with her at 15. They said that Bill Cosby was described as being very funny, but an arrogant guy. There was another story of a woman by the name of Chloe. Again, same thing. Bill Cosby brought her up to the mansion. She started complaining about not feeling well. Bill Cosby, because he had given her a drink. She started complaining about not feeling well, so they took her to one of the bedrooms where she could rest. And Bill Cosby assaulted her there. Again, this is all allegedly, y'all. Then there was a playmate. Her name was Donna Spear. That's the one, if you saw last week's review, Donna Spear is the one who spoke last week about her eating disorder. That's what they said. They said that in the documentary that he was the MC for the Playboy Jazz Festival. He also played in a lot of the tennis tournaments, the Playboy tennis tournaments. Donna Spear was, like I said, she was a Playboy bunny. She was the one that ended up having an eating disorder. I talked about her last week. But she spoke, she said she knew Bill Cosby long before she became a Playboy bunny. She was 16 when she started dating Bill Cosby. He knew how old she was. She was 16 years old. She said that they dated for about 2 years. She said she got strung out on drugs and alcohol. She ended up having to go to rehab. And she said while she was in rehab, Bill Cosby called her and told her, "You're no fun when you're sober." Now that's the same young lady. Now let me put a pin in that right there. Her home life must have been some bullshit. And I'm gonna tell you why. Because that's the same young lady. Again, if you saw my review from last week, this is the same woman who said that she took her pictures for Playboy at 17 and that her mother signed the release. She said Playboy didn't release the pictures until she was 18, but they knew she was 17 when they were taking the pictures, and her mother signed off on it. So I said last week, what kind of mama is that? Like, what kind of mama is letting her daughter pose nude at 17? But she clearly had some other stuff because she was running around with a grown-ass man at 16. So it was in rehab by the time she was 17. So she clearly had some other stuff going on in her life, right? Some other stuff. Hey, Tracy. Hold on a second, y'all. Sorry about that. What's up, little baby? Now, y'all remember the woman who was the bunny, the bunny mother? I told y'all about her last week as well. I forget her name, and I don't. If I go back to, well, no, this is a new notebook. My old notebook will have my notes from last week's episode, but she was the bunny mother, the one that hurt her back when she was a Playboy bunny, and they sent her to Chicago, and she was the bunny mother for many years until she eventually quit because of stuff. Now, last week's episode, she talked about being sexually assaulted. Now, I don't want to say I don't believe her story, because I believe her story. I'm going to say I don't think we got her whole story. Does that make sense? But let me tell you the story. Now, she was a Playboy mother. I mean, she was the bunny mother. So she was the one that made sure that they were in their costumes and that they, whatever at the club, down to the Playboy club. She said she had known Bill Cosby for 6 years because Bill Cosby was a VIP member. And whenever he came to the club, he was treated with VIP privileges. And, she said he was protected by Hugh Hefner. And everybody knew that he was Hugh Hefner's right-hand man and that he better be treated right. And that is what it is. So she said, one night he invited her out, out to dinner. And she said it was no big deal. And I didn't think nothing of it because, again, I had known him for 6 years. He had been coming through the club forever. We knew each other. We were on a first name basis. It wasn't a big deal. So she said she got to his hotel and he said, come on, let's have a cocktail before we head out. So y'all know the drill. Gave her a drink. Y'all know what happened. She passed out. She said she woke up the next day, that morning, I think she said 6 o'clock in the morning. She woke up. She was naked in bed. He was laying next to her naked. She said that she got up. Of course, she realized what happened. She said she was bleeding because he had sodomized her. And she talked about the amount of blood. She said it was so much blood. It was just so much blood. She said she got out of there. She went home. She said she was walking through the lobby. Still blood was dripping. She said she got home, took a shower, all of that. She said, but she went to work the next day because she was like, who was I going to tell? I know that nobody she said she told her boss. And her boss told her basically, well, I don't know what you want us to do about it. You know who Bill Cosby is. You know that's Hugh Hefner's friend. Nothing gonna happen. So they went to. So she talked about how she went back to work or whatever, and she said that he called her that day and he was actually angry. He called her on he was on the private line, and she was like, I don't even know how he got that number. I'm like, girl, you know how he got that number. You know he was connected. She said he was angry. He was like, why did you leave? And I was like, what, did he want round two? What you mean? And she said that she had a card that he had actually sent her. It wasn't in his handwriting. It was a card, and it said something about you take care of yourself mentally or something like that. You take care of yourself. And he had sent her something with the card. It wasn't flowers because it was something that didn't die because she had it. And the producers asked her, well, why did you hold on to it? She was like, well, I held on to it to show myself how far I have come. Again, I'm not saying her story ain't true. I ain't saying her story ain't true because Lord knows I'm not going to question none of these women because they've been through a lot. I'm just saying I don't think we got the whole story. That's all I'm going to say about that. Then they talked about Roman Polanski. Now, for those of you who do not know, yes, Joshua, that's what that means, baby. For those of you who do not know who Roman Polanski is another director who actually was convicted of having sex with a 13-year-old, and he actually left the country to avoid going to jail. So he currently lives in a country with no extradition with the United States. So he never had to serve any time. Thank you, Yana. Thank you so much. And his ex-girlfriend, Sandra, Hugh Hefner's ex-girlfriend, Sandra, she said that, she overheard a conversation of the guys in the pool house, and basically they were talking about how stupid he was to get caught. Not, oh my gosh, how horrible was it that he had sex with this 13-year-old, but how stupid it was that he got caught. And so the attitude wasn't that it was wrong that he did it. The attitude was he got caught. And they actually played a videotape. I mean, looked like an interview he did where he admitted to having sex with the 13-year-old, and he knew, he was married to Sharon Tate. Yes, he was actually up. That was him. Where he knew the girl was 13 because he said, well, she was almost 14, as if that made a difference. Like, I could see if he said 17, almost 18, 13, almost 14, sir. 14 is still far, far away from the legal age of consent. And he had the nerve to even say, yeah, because I remember wishing her a happy birthday or something. So it's no question about whether he did it. And there's no question that he didn't feel like he had done anything wrong, because in the interview, he was very a matter of fact. I had some Pepsi this morning. Like, it was very a matter of fact. Hey, educated queen, how are you? Thank you so much. So, right. They talked about how Hugh Hefner actually seduced one of his daughter's friends at her 16th birthday party. Y'all, this stuff is just ridiculous. Now, the other person that they got into detail with was Jim Brown. Now, those who don't know who Jim Brown is a very accomplished, famous, and respected football player. He did a lot of civil rights work. He's very much, but he again was a guest at the Playboy Mansion in the 1970s, and they said that he was very, very brutal with the women. Stories were told, yes, the daughter's birthday party. Stories were told by Stella Tannenbaum, who was the hostess. She told two stories. The first story she told was one night she remembered Jim Brown literally picking up one of the women. Now, they were clear to say both times that these women were black. I don't know why it mattered, but they told us that these women was black. Hey, Miles. He turned her upside down and shook her by her ankles until her breast popped out of her shirt, and then he flipped her back right side up, and that, with her breast sitting out, right? And that the girl looked absolutely horrified. Like, then she told another story about how in the grotto, for those who don't know about the famous grotto and hot tub at the Playboy Mansion, the pool, there's like an underground, like little cave area. They call it the grotto. She said that in the bathhouse by the grotto, there was this chair that they used. It was a sex chair. And on the chair, there was a dildo. And she told the story about hearing this woman screaming, right? Horribly screaming at the top of her lungs, how her and her husband, who was the valet at the time, they went to check out the sound. She said when she went in there, Jim Brown was in there assaulting that woman on the chair, to the extent that when he got done, the valet literally put her in a car and sent her to the hospital. That is how bad it was that he was assaulting her. Now, they didn't specify whether he was using the dildo on the chair or it was him or it was a combination. They ain't get into all of that. They just said that she was screaming and that they had to send her to the hospital. And he said, I never saw her at the Playboy Mansion again. And they said, I guess the producers asked them, well, why didn't you guys ever step in? Why didn't you stop it? And they were like, and do what? Like, the whole system was rigged. The whole system was set up to protect these people. We go in and we stop it, we lose our job. It doesn't stop anything from happening. And I guess in hindsight, it's easy to be like, well, F that job. Like, so what? Why would you want to work for somebody like that? Why would you want to work there? But I guess in the moment, it was like, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? You know what I'm saying? Hey, C. Golden. They said that Jim Brown had a history or reputation, for lack of a better word, at the Playboy Mansion. There were women who he beat. They said there was episodes of women having cracked ribs and dislocated jaws. Yet he was always welcomed back, even after. It's kind of like the thing with Don Cornelius. He was always welcomed back. Now, here's where I appreciated the conversation, because one of the people that they had talking, she's a writer for, was it Rolling Stone? But she was a black writer. I mean, just the where she write for don't matter, but she was a black writer. And she spoke of the racism. And I spoke of this in that episode that they brought up Don Cornelius. And I said, why are they mentioning Don Cornelius by name, but they're not mentioning any of these other men? And I'm sure that there was any other plethora of men that were violated or that violated these women. Why are just the black men, Bill Cosby, Don Cornelius, Jim Brown? Now, they mentioned Tony Curtis, but they didn't mention Tony Curtis. It says, stay healthy mentally. Hold on, because I have it playing in the background while I'm talking to y'all. The note that the woman said that Bill Cosby sent her, it says, stay healthy mentally, stay in charge of yourself. Now, that's just some crazy shit. You could tell it wasn't his handwriting, though. You could tell it was like a card he probably just sent to her. He got the florist to send it or whatever. But I was just like, now why in the hell? Like, that just sounds so generic. Anyway, I'm sorry. But they said that she talked about that, like the racism in the fact that a lot of these women, and not the conscious racism of, well, I'm only going to mention the black men, but it's that inherent racism where you feel more comfortable talking about the black men that exploited you than you do the white men, right? And how society is so quick and so easy for not black folk society, but mainstream society. It's so easy for them to accept that a black man could do these horrific things versus a white man. And I was so glad that she addressed it and that she brought it up, because y'all know I brought this up with the Don Cornelius thing. I said, why is it that they're protecting these other men, but the Don Cornelius, you didn't have no problem spitting his name out, but we keep hearing, oh, well, there was another guy, and I won't mention his name, or there was another guy, a famous Hollywood type, or there was a famous guy. And I'm like, well, why are we not mentioning none of their names? But we don't have no problem rolling out Jim Brown, Don Cornelius, Bill Cosby. I don't understand that. And that's not to say that these men are innocent, because I ain't saying that either. And I'm not going to defend bad behavior. But what I'm going to say is, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If we don't have no problem putting all their business out, then I'm sorry. Then all of this got to be, all of this, you know what I'm saying? We're going to put one out there. We got to put them all out there. Reagan came from Hollywood. Why would he not possibly be involved? Yeah, he's notorious for putting his hands on people. There was a story about a lady jumping off a balcony to get away from Jim Brown. Oh, my God. Oh, my. I have to look that up. He pushed her allegedly. Oh, Lord. Please also look up Jimmy Savile, the worst pedophile and predator in the UK from back then on TV. Oh, wow. And again, I'm not saying that there aren't stories out there about white men. So please don't take away from that. I just find it interesting that even within this documentary, where these women are talking about the worst things that happened to them and how these men brutalize them, they're still protecting certain people, but other people, they don't have no problem putting it out there. Now, I can understand the Bill Cosbys of the world. You probably are comfortable because there's so many other stories out there. So it's kind of like, what's a few more? Because at the time that this documentary was made, Bill Cosby was in jail he had been convicted of it, right? Don Cornelius has passed away, but that story that they told, what I found out after the fact is that's a well-known story. Like that isn't new information. But I had never heard any of this about Jim Brown. Now, again, y'all are saying stuff in the chat now, but there are also other people that we know. They showed pictures of Chevy Chase and Dick Van Dyke. Now, the only other person they did mention, they talked about Jim Belushi, being there when with the bestiality situation. And again, the question is, yeah, he's not here to defend himself. I mean, although would any of us be shocked to find out that Jim Belushi was there when all that happened? But he wasn't accused of being a part of it. He would just be accused of watching it happen. Please, because they're still alive. But Bill Cosby's still alive. Jim Brown is still alive. Like, these men are still alive. The only one dead is Jim Brown. Did Jim Brown die? I'm gonna have to look that up. I'm sure there were politicians, as we saw with Tom Girardi and how he was able to get by for so long with his stunts. I'm sure that was the case. I think it's because they are more famous. Maybe. Yeah, Dick Van Dyke. They had Dick Van Dyke. They even had Dick Van Dyke in an interview on this episode where basically he was saying that people go to the Playboy Mansion because they can pretty much do whatever they want. He said that. That's almost a direct quote. So, okay, see, Jim Brown's still alive. Right, they had they showed pictures of, and again, we know that Hollywood's elite was up there and was up at that mansion. Like, we know it. Well into the 2000s, people, they were still having them parties down to the Playboy Mansion, chat. But I just thought that was a good point, and I was glad that they brought it up. They also said that the suicide rate is higher among women who were playmates than it is among, like, as it compares to women in that age group. Right. The woman who was a bunny mother, the one that she said that Bill Cosby assaulted her, she said that she actually attempted to do that as well. She said she became a cutter, and then she said she actually attempted it twice. There was another woman that they interviewed who also said that she attempted it. Hey, I watched that Rick James doc. It was good. Oh, this Playboy doc is something else. Yes, Sam J. It is. It is a whole mess. So yeah, y'all, that was last night's episode, y'all. And ultimately, I think the Melanie Myers, the friend of Paige, ultimately she said that she felt like Paige's voice was taken from her because no investigation really went into what, Paige's suicide note or the mural she left about Hugh Hefner becoming the devil. But she said that she feels like this documentary, in a small way, is a way for Paige's voice to get out there. No, you know what? From everything that I've read about Ronald Reagan is that he really was a straight shooter. Like, Ronald Reagan was a square. Now, that doesn't mean that he ain't cheat on his wife or he ain't had, but I've never heard anything that would lead me to feel like that Ronald Reagan would hang out at the Playboy Mansion. That wasn't his thing. That wasn't his get down. Now, I'm not saying that there weren't people around Ronald Reagan, but I've never read anything that would lead that open that Ronald Reagan would do that. So were the rules changed in recent years, or were the playmates still being abused up until Hugh died? From my understanding, the thing that seems constant is the sex parties and the drugs. That seems consistent. That seems like that lasted well into the 2000s. We know that was still going on when Holly Madison was there when they were filming Girls Next Door, because she spoke on it. So well into the 2000s, it was happening. As far as the assaults and stuff, maybe I wouldn't say no. I definitely wouldn't say no. But this episode, most of these stories that they're talking about in this episode were the 70s, took place in the 70s. Who in the chat read Holly's book? I didn't read it, but they had a whole episode dedicated to Holly Child. I want to know who has all the tapes and recordings. Let me say this. Some of the tapes, I can believe that some of the tapes may have been destroyed, but what I don't believe is that all of them were. I do not believe that all of those tapes were destroyed. Yeah. You read the book? Yeah, they had a whole episode on her though. They had a whole episode, and she talked about as much as she within an hour, I guess, telling her story. Yeah, it's y'all. I'm telling you, this thing is deep. It's just deep. And like I said, I don't know how many episodes. We're on episode 8. I don't know if they're going to give us. They're going to round it up to an even 10 because I know it's another episode next week because they showed the previews at the end of this episode. But I feel like they might be winding down. So I feel like next week's episode, I think, is going to talk about shit. I forgot, but I'm thinking maybe we're going to get a even 10. Like next week will be episode 9. If HUgh was still alive, these alpha male men would be calling him the ultimate high value man. A women should be submissive to. No, if HUgh was still alive, they'd be trying to put his ass in jail. I think a lot of women aren't saying it. I mean, first of all, a lot of women did speak up. In this documentary, a lot of women are telling their story. But we know that for every one woman that's telling their story, the way they're talking, there's probably 10 women that aren't. I think a lot of women maybe aren't speaking up at this point because he's gone, and we know what happens to women when they tell these stories and when people don't want to believe them. It creates a situation. And with the statute of limitations being up on most of these situations, the 70s and the 80s, why would you open yourself up to it just for people to call you a liar, just for people to say you were a slut, just for people to say, well, you posed nude, you asked for, like all the different things that we know they're going to say about those women, just for them to say all of that. Exactly, Naturally, Mar. You know that there's so much more that isn't being said. Well, they didn't, Sam J. The problem was, again, a lot of people didn't believe them. The women told their stories. A lot of these women, just like, a lot of these women told their stories, but people didn't believe them. Jay Wyman says she left Ronald Reagan because he was boring and dumb. Probably. That's what I'm saying. I've heard a lot of stuff about Ronald Reagan, but him being that dude, no. Again, I'm not saying he was an angel by any stretch, but, doing drugs, hanging out at the Playboy mansion with HUgh Hefner, nah. Nah. And you got to remember his age. I mean, I'm not saying, again, we know dirty old men, but what I'm saying is, even in the 1970s, Ronald Reagan was still old. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was still in his 70s, and he had a huge political career. Remember, he was the governor of California in the 1960s. By the 1970s, he was running for president. So, yeah, he ain't had time for to be hanging out with HUgh Hefner, child. No. Mm-mm. And again, I ain't saying he was an angel by any stretch, but nah, I'm not surprised that we don't hear his name associated with that. Yes, that was, yes, Jane Wyman. Yes, that was Angela, baby. That was Angela down to the Falcon Crest, honey. Which, by the way, y'all will be getting a Falcon Crest and a wire this week. I told y'all we were going to start it up. So y'all got a different world. I said y'all would get one a week. So I owe y'all I owe y'all a Falcon Crest and a wire. Y'all will get them this week. Not he was old when he was young. Yeah, he was old when he was young. Remember, Ronald Reagan was the president of the Actors Guild. That's how he met Nancy Reagan. He was the president of the Actors Guild in the 1950s. And then he became the governor of California in the 1960s. And like I said, by the 1970s, he was running for president of the United States. He became president in 1980. So, yeah. Don't do me, lady, little baby. You're going to be so shocked. You're going to be so shocked. Like Morgan Freeman, right? Right. Yes, honey, yes. So, I'm going to say this. If y'all are not checking this out, y'all need to go check it out. It is so good. It's sad because these are real people we're talking about. These are real women who were brutalized. Right. Throat Goat Davis. Don't do me, Leo. Kimberly, Kim, Hold on. I promise you that was the next thing out of my mouth. I was just getting ready to say it. But it's sad because, again, you know, these are real people's stories, and I believe them. Like, I believe these women. I just do. You know, I don't believe every story that come across my desk. Y'all know I don't. But I believe these women. I believe these stories. And even if y'all know what I say about where there's smoke, even if a few of these women are exaggerating because they just wanted to be on TV, which is stupid, but okay, all right, whatever. At the end of the day, I believe the majority of these women are telling the truth. And if only 3 or 4 of them are telling the truth, do y'all know that we're on episode 8, and in every single episode, we have learned about a sexual assault against somebody? Now, next week, this is what Kimberly was just talking about. Next week, they're going to start a new series. It's going to be overlapping. At 9 o'clock, this comes on, and at 10 o'clock, they're starting a new series, and it is called The Secret Murders of the Chippendales, or at the Chippendales. Yes, honey, we are going to be reviewing that, Kimberly. Absolutely. So on A&E next week at 10 o'clock, it's called The Secret Murders of Chippendales. And they're going to be talking about the rise and fall of the Chippendales and some of the salaciousness that went on with the Chippendales. Okay. So we are definitely going to be talking about that. And for those of you who do not know who the Chippendales are, the Chippendales were like, they were like a male review. They were like male strippers, but they were like a male review. It was like, again, they were like the Playboy of the male strippers, right? They were the respectable, you know, show. You could go see the Chippendales dancers, and, you know, child, my mama, I remember when I was a kid, I remember my mother saying, when you turn 18, I'm going to take you to see the Chippendales. And I was like, okay. You know what I'm saying? So there was a man who would kill a child, like in Deuce Bigalow, I guess. Kitty Kelly did say those things about Nancy. Didn't say what things about Nancy. Kitty Kelly told all Nancy business, though. Told her that she ran the White House, like she had Ronald Reagan running the White House based on what her psychic said, child. What Kitty Kelly say? Yeah, Kitty Kelly spelled that story all the time back in the day. The Thunder from Down Under. I went there one time, never again. Yeah, I wasn't, child. That wasn't my idea of a good time. Baby, that episode of 2020 about the Chippendales murder was so good. Yeah, it's based on that, but I'm sure they're going to give us the whole background before we get, you know how they do, because this is a multi episode. I don't know how many episodes there are. She didn't say what? What didn't she say, Shirley? What didn't Kitty Kelly say? Kitty Kelly did talk about her psychics and that she had a psychic advisor. Yes, she did. She talked about that in the book. I don't know what she did. I don't know what you're saying she didn't talk about, but if that's what you're saying, she did talk about it. Kitty Kelly did talk about that. Because they were trying to get, remember, let me tell you something. Kitty Kelly and Jay, what's his name? Jay Randy Tabarelli, I think his name was. The two of them, they wrote some of the most salacious biographies in the 90s. Oh, I don't know. I ain't seen. Okay, I missed that message, Shirley. I ain't seen nobody saying about no BJs. I missed that. And Kitty Kelly, they wrote some of the most salacious biographies. I remember J. Randy Tabarelli. He did Diana Ross. He did Michael Jackson. I think he did Prince, but don't quote me on that. Kitty Kelly did the Reagans. She did the Kennedys, I believe. I think she did the Royal Family. Baby, those books were so good. Those books were so good. Ronald also left the White House and started losing it mentally. Maybe that was karma for when he closed facilities for some mental patients, throwing them in the streets and made some of them homeless. He actually started losing it before he left the White House. That's documented as well. Sinatra, that's the other one. She did Sinatra. Yes, the one on Sinatra was good. Oh, Kitty Kelly did Oprah. Mm-hmm. Wasn't Kitty Kelly the one that exposed Oprah, the fact that Oprah had a child. Wasn't Kitty Kelly the one that put that out there? Don't quote me on that, y'all. But Leo, you tell me, you remind me. Let me refresh my memory, I should say. Was she the one that put that out there? Because Oprah had always talked about the fact that I don't think Oprah had opened up about the fact that she was like a juvenile delinquent and had a child. I don't know if she had put that out there. I want to say Kitty Kelly put that out there in her book. But don't quote me on that. I'm waiting to see who does a documentary on the dark side of the music entertainment industry. Child, there's a million of them. You got to be more specific. Recent reports are saying Ronnie was looking for Nancy with a flashlight at high noon because of, oh, Lord. She did? Okay, I thought that's who it was. Damn, what kind of little bird does Kitty Kelly? Child. Well, what happened was Kitty, okay, so what a lot of people don't remember, if you grew up during that time period, you remember a lot about like Oprah being Oprah. And what happened was Oprah never talked about her mother. She always talked about her father. Whenever you would hear Oprah's story, you always heard about how she lived with her dad and her stepmother. And, you know, she left her mom. She never got into the details about why she left her mom. She just talked about the fact that she went to live with her dad and that he was strict on her. And she lived with her father and her stepmother. And that was the story we heard. But we never heard why. We never got the details of why and whatever happened with your mother. And what happened was when Kitty Kelly was doing her research, she found Oprah's mother, and Oprah mama told it. Because Oprah's mother's side of the family resented Oprah because they felt like she had sort of turned her back on them. And so they told it. They told the whole thing about her having a child. And I think I remember, and y'all quote me if I'm wrong, but I think I remember that Oprah but Oprah chose to go on her show and say, yeah, it's true. I had a child. The baby was stillborn, yada, yada, yada. And then people didn't believe her that the baby was stillborn because they were like, well, she ain't tell us the truth about having a child. Why we gonna believe that the child was stillborn? So then everybody was out here looking for Oprah baby. And it was a whole thing about them looking for Oprah's child. I need to read the Diana Ross book because, baby, her memoir. Yeah, Diana, call her Miss Ross, baby. Listen, you read Call Her Miss Ross and you read Mary Wilson's autobiography, My Life as a Supreme. Both of those books together, bitch. If y'all read those two books, then y'all understand why I don't even really fuck with Diana Ross like that. Kitty Kelly wrote her book in 1991. Nancy Reagan's salacious claims. Kelly wrote of Nancy's apparent popularity in the MGM lot because of her reputation for performing oral sex. Who was hitting Oprah? Stedman ain't had no porridge yet. Huh? And that her mother made her sleep in the hallway because she was dark-skinned compared to her other siblings. Yeah, I don't remember all the details, but yeah, that could very well be true. Now I heard the horror stories about Diana Ross. She also talked about the royal family. Yeah, I knew she had done one on the royal family. And again, she put, quote, don't quote me on this, y'all, but I want to say that Kitty Kelly was the one that put out there she put a lot of the details about Diana and Prince Charles's marriage, about how horrible he was to her. She put a lot of that stuff out there. Jackie Kennedy, Elizabeth Taylor, and the Bush family. Oprah had her mother on her show, and you could tell the mother was resentful. Oprah's sister, yeah. I read My Life as a Supreme. Can't stand Diane. You petty Donna. You wrote her name the legal way. Mary Wilson book was so good. All that Motown gossip. Yes, baby. She had all the gossip, honey. My daddy hate Diana Ross. We were not allowed to listen to her. Dang, he really hate her. You couldn't listen to her music. Damn. Yeah, I'm not a fan. I mean, again, I don't know that woman personally. You know, she don't owe me nothing, but I'm definitely not a fan. Yeah, her legal name is Diane. The Diana, she did that, child. She says that was what her name was originally supposed to be, and it was a typo on her birth certificate. But child, if you ever notice, if you go look at old Motown footage, if any old interviews of the Supremes, if you listen to Mary Wilson or Florence Ballard, they call her Diane. They don't call her Diana. Neither one of them call her Diana. They call her Diane. And they said it irritated her to her soul. She hated that they would not call her Diana. She hated it. My mom couldn't stand Diane either. She used to say Flo was the real singer. And what they did to Florence Ballard was, oh my God, it was horrible. I love Florence Ballard. I actually have her solo album that she had on Columbia Records. It was so good. It was so good. That girl's voice was Yeah, Diane is her real name. She's a cousin of yours. Y'all go back and listen. I love biographies and autobiographies. I absolutely love them. Y'all go back and read some of them autobiographies, especially the Motown ones, when you find out about all of the cheating that was going on the road. All them women was sleeping with all them men. The Supremes was sleeping with the Temptations and the Four Tops and Smokey Robinson and child. They was all sleeping with each other when they were on the road, and they would get back from the road and they would all go back to their wives and husbands like nothing ever happened, child. Y'all read them about. Y'all better go on out there and get that good stuff, get that good gossip, honey. They talked about how Diana Ross, how bad her temper was. Diana Ross threatened to run over. They had another, it wasn't Stevie Wonder, there was another kid at Motown that was blind, that was a singer, and his caretaker was a woman that Diana Ross could not stand. I think she was dating a man that Diana Ross was trying to date, or somebody that Diana Ross actually was dating. I don't remember all of it now, but Diana Ross actually got in a car and tried to run that woman over and almost hit the little blind boy. It wasn't Stevie Wonder. It was another kid that Motown had signed that was blind and was a musician. And Diana Ross was trying to get to that woman. They talked about how bad her temper was. And she almost ran that woman over. Mary was cool with Diana's underhanded tactics when it benefited her. When Diana started excluding her, that is when the problem started. I think the problem or the biggest issue with with Mary was in the middle of two juggernauts. She had Florence on her left and Diana Ross on her right, and she was in the middle, and she was not a confrontational person. She was like, I just want everybody to be happy. I don't want no shit. I just want to sing, make money, and move on with my life. And she was in the middle. You know, I think we also have to remember that they were young. These women were in their 20s. You know, they were in their 20s and they were going through these things, and it was a lot. You know, it was a lot. I don't put too much on Mary. I think she was in a really bad situation because she was in the middle. Because they said Florence ain't take no shit. And her and Diana Ross used to fight like cats and dogs. They used to fight. And she was in the middle. And at the end of the day, Diana Ross always won. Whatever the fight was, Diana Ross always won because she would just go to Berry Gordy and he would give her whatever she wanted. They could be fighting over what color dress they going to wear. They could be fighting over where they going to go eat after the concert. Whatever the fight was, Diana always won. So Mary's in the middle going, well, what the hell why am I going to get in the middle of it? We're going to lose. Now Donna Smokey Robinson was fired as hell. I heard Mary Wilson, two-piece Diana Ross. They always say Donna didn't want no smoke with Florence or Mary. She didn't want no smoke with Florence. Mary, I don't know about. But Florence, let me tell you something. If Florence Ballard had never gotten, if she had never become an alcoholic, if she had been able to maintain her sobriety and keep her wits about her, it would be a whole different story about how that story went, child. Baby, go back to 2000 when they did the Return of the Love Tour. Mary lets her have it. Plus, they were friends. They grew up together. Yeah, I mean, they knew each other from high school. Matter of fact, what Mary and Diana were friends before Florence, right? Didn't they meet Florence through the neighborhood or something like that? Yeah, child. Martha the Vandella said Diana was still there. Yeah, Diana was nasty. Diana was nasty, y'all. Y'all go back and read them books. Diana Ross was a nasty woman. Matter of fact, you ain't even got to go back and read them books. Do y'all know Narob? Narob on YouTube, she does book reviews. And she does, most of her books are biographies and autobiographies of a lot of these people. If y'all go back through her playlist, she's done Call Her Miss Ross. She's done Mary Wilson's book. She's done a lot of those books. And y'all can just go back and look at her reviews. Because she does, she breaks it down. Y'all go back and look at some of her reviews. Oh, Patti LaBelle, yes, honey. Because, Patti LaBelle was dating one of the Temptations. So she had an inside scoop, too, to a lot of the shenanigans. She had an inside scoop to a lot of the shenanigans, child. Old copies of Jet Magazine. Yeah, but Jet Magazine still give you some of the... It's still sort of watered down. Yeah, they rob Keisha. Matter of fact, let me get her link real quick, and then we're going to get off of here. Let me get her link real quick. Y'all go check her channel out because she does a lot of autobiographies. She's doing Jennifer Lewis's book right now, which is Jennifer Lewis's book is so good. If y'all haven't read Jennifer Lewis, was it The Godmother of Hollywood or The Mother of Hollywood, Black Hollywood? It was good. It was so good. That's Nayrob's link. That's the link to her channel. She reviewed Marvin Gaye's ex-wife's book. Yes, honey. Right, that's how they ended up with Cindy Birdsong. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, Patty dated Otis, child. I'm such a huge fan of Diana. I have all of her albums, even 3 copies of her new Jack album, Working Overtime in Japan. Oh, wow. Okay, you are a fan. All the black acts travel on the Chitlin circuit. The LaBelles always went after the Supremes, so Diane would go in and see what costumes they were wearing and go get them for the Supremes. See? Patty said she dated Otis, but he wanted her to marry him and stop singing. And Patty said, hell to the nah. Yeah. He definitely wanted like a stay-at-home wife. He didn't want a wife in the business. Probably so he could go out on the road and do what he wanted to do and not have to worry about her being around, child. All right, y'all. Let me get ready to get off of here. But yeah, thank y'all for being here. If y'all are not checking out Playboy, the documentary, y'all go check it out. If not, just keep watching my reviews. I feel like we're gonna get 2 more episodes. I could look it up, but I just don't feel like it, child. But we're gonna pick up the Chippendales next week. She's a true Aries, child. That Diana's a mess. Patty said, "Ain't nobody come to see you, Otis." You know what, Shirley? Anyway, y'all, I will check y'all out later. Y'all have a good evening. Tonight we have the Real Housewives of New Jersey and something else tonight. I think something else come on tonight. But anyway, we got the Real Housewives of New Jersey. And I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.